every day. I have a voice, my voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. I have a voice, my voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. Change the world. I will give of myself.
I will give of myself.
I will reach out my hand.
I will reach out my hand.
I will use this heart I've been given to take a stand. I have a voice, my voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. I have a voice, my voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. Change the world. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech haolam she'asanu b'tselem Elohim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech haolam she'asanu b'tselem Elohim. I have a voice, my voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. I have a voice, my voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. Change the world. I will fight for the truth.
I will fight for the truth.
I'll stand up for what's right.
I'll stand up for what's right.
I will use this strength I've been given to be a light. I have a voice, my voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. I have a voice, my voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. I have a voice, my voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. I have a voice, my voice is powerful. My voice can change the world. Change the world.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is a pleasure to be here with you this evening as we welcome Shabbat, as we welcome some members of our third grade class, as we welcome those who are joining us online. I keep doing that. Hopefully you are able to hear us this week with our apologies for the technological snafu of last week. But we are excited to be back in action, excited to be with you, whether you are with us in person or are joining us online. Let's begin as we are wont to do in our prayer books on page 10, Hine Ma Tov, how good it is to be together this evening.
הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
As we turn to page 2 in our prayer books, as we prepare to kindle the lights of Shabbat, it is my honor to get to invite forward those who are helping to lead our third grade in Torah Center. Mrs. Harlan, Mrs. Claypool, would you join us to kindle these lights on page 2? Wonderful. Thank you both so much. Welcome to be seated. And we also welcome the sweetness of Shabbat as we turn in our prayer books to page 5, rising if it is comfortable for you to do so, as we join together in the blessing. Page 5. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho me'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh zecher letziat Mitzrayim ki banu v'acharta ve'otanu kidasha mikol ha'amim ve'shabbat kodshecha me'ahava uvratzon hinchatanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. L'chaim. Please, you are welcome to be seated as we join together this evening with the joy in our hearts, not only of Shabbat, but welcoming members of our third grade class. We also join tonight with a bit of sadness in our hearts, recognizing that today is the day the international community recognizes International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Separate from Yom HaShoah, perhaps, when the Jewish community remembers based on a date and the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. Today we commemorate the liberation of one of the concentration camps, and at the beginning and end of tonight's service, we mark this commemoration, this recognition with special liturgy. If you're at home, these words can be found on page 370. It's true in the room, but you can also find the words on the screen. There we are. Thank you. As we recognize these words from Psalm 3 as we start our service tonight.
Lo ira merivotam asher saviv saviv shatu alai. Lo ira merivotam asher saviv saviv shatu alai. Kuma Adonai v'hoshieni. Kuma Adonai v'hoshieni. Lo ira merivotam סביבותם אשר סביב סביב שתו עלי לא יירא מרבבותם אשר סביב סביב שתו עלי.
Recognize in the darkness of that time our prayers that ardently made their way to heaven. And yet we recognize that light did eventually shine again for the Jews in the world. We continue with words taken from Psalm 97. Again, if you are joining us online or in person, those words can be found on page 14 in your prayer book or on the screen before us.
Ozaru ala tzadik uyishredav simcha. Ozaru ala tzadik uyishredav simcha. We must keep our hopes alive. We must raise our voices high. We must hold each other tight. We must stand up in the night and be a light. Ozaru ala tzadik uyishredav simcha. Ozaru ala tzadik uyishredav simcha. We must spread our love around. We must feel this spiritual sound. We must work till peace has come. We must love and live as one and be a light. Ozaru ala tzadik uyishredav simcha. Ozaru ala tzadik uyishredav simcha.
We feel that weight of history. We hold that sadness mixed with the joy of Shabbat in our hearts as we turn in our prayer books to page 20, imagining Shabbat itself being with us to lift us up, to revive our spirits on this day. We continue with words of Lecha Dodi found on pages 20 and 21.
Lecha dodi likat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad. Yishmi'anu el ha'meyachad. Adonai echad u'shmo echad. L'shem u'tiferet v'lithilah. Lecha dodi likat kala. B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likat kala. B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likat Shabbat lechu v'necha. Ki mekor ha'bracha. Merosh mikedem nesucha. Sof ma'aseh b'machshvat tchilah. Lecha dodi likat kala. B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likat kala. B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, toreri, כי באורך קומי אורי, אורי אורי שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
While you're already up, we invite you to turn to the people beside you to wish them a Shabbat Shalom, that we might join in sacred community this evening. And when you are ready, we invite you to find your seat as we continue our words of welcoming and greeting, page 24, words of Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Would you join us in the English on the top, well, make that the middle of page 27. Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer, on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days, lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways. Page 26.
Yitkara v'yitkara shmei Rabba, Be'alma divrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei, Mecha echon v'yom echon, Uv'chayedecho beit Yisrael, Bagala, Uv'izman kariv, V'meru, Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach, le'alam me'amaya, Yitbarach v'yishavach, v'yitpa'ar v'yidromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemei d'kedusha brichu, le'la min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'ama, v'meru. Amen.
The moment you have been waiting for, or at least the moment I have been waiting for. I would love to invite a few of the members of our third grade class to join Rabbi Emily and I on the pulpit, that they might lead us in prayer this evening. We're going to begin on page 28 in your prayer books, all right, with our Baruch Hu praise. Felix, would you like one? All right. On page 28, our Baruch Hu praise, I would invite you to rise, if it is comfortable, to do so as we join together in our call to worship, our Baruch Hu praise.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
And on the following page, or on the screen in front of us, the setting, recognizing that day turns to night each and every day. Happy to hold on to those if you want your hands free, or you can keep it. Fantastic. By now, you all know this one along with us, and we invite you to join us.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei yom v'layla, golelu mipnei choshech, golelu mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night.
And we continue on pages 34 and 35. Rabbi Emily, would you double check that?
That sounds right.
Sounds
Yes,
right to me
that
as
is
well.
correct.
The watchwords of our faith, Shema Yisrael. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu.
Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu. Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu. Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu. Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu. Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu. Adonai Echad.
Are amazing. Well done. You're welcome to have a seat. Don't go too far. They're not done quite yet, but for the next couple of prayers, you're welcome to head back to your seats as we continue together on page 36 with our Ve'ahavta praise. We invite you to be seated as we continue together.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
As we turn the pages to get to page 40, so too do we turn the weeks, recognizing that next Shabbat is the Shabbat where we read these words, Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, from our Torah text. It is part of the larger setting in Exodus 15 known as Shirat Hayam, or the Song of the Sea. And Shabbat Shirah, the Sabbath of Song, is what we call the next Shabbat throughout the Jewish world. In celebration of Shabbat Shirah, next Friday evening, I'm excited that the combined Temple Emanuel Choir and the Bower Hill Community Church Choir will join together to lead us in prayer in a very special service. I invite everyone to join us in person or online next Friday night, same time, same place, for a celebration of music, a celebration of freedom, a celebration of what we can do when we raise our voices together. Our service continues this evening on page 40.
Yai lai lai la lai la 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 lai. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 lai. Yai lai la lai lai ya la 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 lai. Yai la lai lai ya la 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 lai. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha neder b'kodesh, nora tehillah sefer, nora tehillah sefer. Malchutecha uvanecha, bokeh lifnei Moshe uMiriam, ze Elianu ve'ameru, ze Elianu ve'ameru. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 lai. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 lai. Yai lai la lai lai ya la 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 lai. Yai la lai lai ya la lai lai lai.
And on the bottom of page 43, would you join us in the English before we sing the Chatimah together? Give us a place to rest, Adonai, our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours.
Baruch atah Adonai haborei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo. Ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Baruch atah אתה אדוני הבורא סוכת שלום. שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל, ועל ירושלים ועל כל עמו, ועל ירושלים שלום. ברוך אתה אדוני הבורא סוכת שלום. שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו, שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו, שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל.
And on page 44, grateful that Shabbat has arrived, we welcome it in song with these words of Torah.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת שבת ויהי נפש, שבת שבת ויהי נפש, שבת שבת ויהי נפש.
On page 46, we find the opening words to our Tefillah, to our Amidah, these words from Psalm 51, a fitting opening to our prayer. And indeed, we invite forward members of our third grade class who have been working on their Hebrew education, not only the Aleph Bet and being in front of the congregation, but how these words form into the prayers of our hearts that we offer this evening. If it is comfortable for you to do so, I invite you to rise as we join with them in these words on page 46. All right, you guys ready? Let's do it. 3, 2, 1.
Adonai sefati tiftach ufi yagid tehillatcha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chasrei Avot V'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'nehem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol atah Rav Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem, Mechakel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Ba'agivurot, Umido Melach, Melech Mimit Umechayeh, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
We invite you to continue with the traditional words of prayer through page 62 in our prayer book, or to continue with the silent prayers and meditations that can only come from each of our own hearts. When you have finished your silent prayer this evening, we invite you to be seated.
עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. I started that too high. We're going to start it lower. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
On page 253 in our prayer books, we find our Misheberach Lecholim, our prayer for those who are ill, those who are in need of healing. We pray for healing of mind, of body, of spirit. And if you are thinking of loved ones and are comfortable sharing their name aloud, that we might concert not only our energies and our prayers, but our efforts on their behalf, I invite you to share their name at this time. Baruch atah Adonai rofeh cholim. Blessed are you, God, who brings a measure of comfort to all who are ill. Page 253.
Mi sheberach avotenu mikor habracha leimahotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imahotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
This week's Torah portion, Parashat Bo, continues the story of Moses standing up and speaking out for the Israelite people, imploring Pharaoh to let them leave before a new calamity would befall the Egyptians. You remember the calamities, those plagues we talk about on Passover, right? Third grade friends, would you be willing to share one of the plagues that you remember? Excellent. Felix. The frog plague. Indeed. Kayla, do you remember one?
The Bloody River.
Ooh, right, when the Nile turned to blood. Mavis, is there a plague on the top of your mind right now?
Death of the firstborn.
Oh, right, death of the firstborn. These 10 plagues that befell the Egyptians. Thank you, third graders. Moses went before Pharaoh, before each one of those plagues, asking Pharaoh to relent. But the text speaks of Pharaoh's hardened heart, his unwillingness to listen. It must have been difficult for Moses to screw up the courage to do so, right? Not only was Moses not a big fan of public speaking, as it said earlier in Exodus, "Please, O Lord, I've never been a man of words," Moses said, "either in times past or now that you have spoken to your servant. I'm slow of speech and slow of tongue," he said, not a fan of public speaking. But it had to feel futile to keep going back to a leader who just wouldn't listen. Yet Moses did it anyway, time and again, until the opportunity came for the Israelites to leave Egypt. Moses showed us the model for doing hard things, for getting over personal fears and stumbling blocks, and advocating for those who needed him. And this past weekend, Temple's 10th graders followed in Moses' shoes. Participating in the Religious Action Center of Reformed Judaism's Litaken seminar, our teens traveled to Washington, D.C. for a 4-day experience, learning about the intersection of Jewish values and the political process. They chose a topic of concern in today's world: climate change, gun violence prevention, reproductive health care, Israel, anti-Semitism, criminal justice reform, access to mental health care, and more. They chose the topic of their interest. They learned more about the issue and about legislative supports that have been proposed, and they prepared to speak in our representatives' offices on behalf of their causes. Like Moses, most were pretty intimidated by the thought of public speaking in general, and they were particularly concerned about speaking to someone in a position of power, particularly if that person in power had a track record of not supporting the issue they cared about. It's pretty intimidating for anyone. It's impossible even for me to be in Senator Bob Casey's office, the same one that JFK used as a senator, sitting before the fireplace and not feeling the weight of the importance of our elected officials and their work. And yet, like Moses, our teens proved that they could do hard things. One group shared their personal stories of struggling to access support and help for mental health-related concerns, advocating for the Mental Health Services for Students Act. And one group spoke about the need to ensure all Americans' voices can be heard through the voting process, through the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. Their speeches, their advocacy, their standing up and speaking out was amazing. And I am so proud of each of them. I share this story not only to promote an amazing program. We take our 10th graders every year there isn't a global pandemic, and I hope that you will go one day, or encourage your children or your grandchildren to participate, but to remind you that this power actually rests within each of us. It's not easy to speak out about things you have observed to be wrong. You have to screw up considerable courage to be able to do so. But doing nothing is perhaps even scarier still. Whether you're speaking to elected officials, teachers, bosses, people in a position of power, or even just friends and loved ones, finding your voice and advocating for your values is something that we are all able to do. Identify that issue that keeps you up at night. Write a letter, or make a phone call, or schedule an appointment, a chance to talk to someone who can do something about that which is important to you. As Alana Arian sang to begin our service, we each have a voice. That voice is really powerful. Each of us has the possibility of changing the world. It's advice that worked for Moses. It worked for our teens in Washington, D.C., and it can work for each of us, too. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will. I invite you to turn back in your prayer books now, the bottom of page 282, as we lift our voices, perhaps through prayer advocacy. For a better world, we want to see words of Aleinu L'Shabech, page 282. We invite you to rise if it is comfortable to do so, as we join together in prayer.
Aleinu l'shabech l'adon hakol, l'tegidu l'letzeh breshit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo samchakinu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
You're welcome to be seated. As we prepare for words of Kaddish Yatom, we do so with a heaviness, with a fullness of heart this Shabbat, remembering not only those who have passed away from our families in the recent past, but those who have passed away as the international community remembers the Holocaust on this day and this Shabbat. We hold each of them in our heart as we remember those for whom we are in a period of Shloshim, including Norty Baskin, Ruth Ginsburg, Ruth Levine, and George Paddock. We mark as well the yahrzeit, the commemoration of the passing of Selma Altschul, Tova Joy Bernfeld, Joseph B. Bernstein, Rose Breslow, Irving Kaplan, Morris Chotner, Rose Cohen, Leonard Cohn, Jane Colvincenzo, Katie Fireman, Victor Fox, Isidore Fischel Frank, David G. Friedman, John Gazzo, Leonard Gordon, Elizabeth Gruber, Victoria Henderson, Gerda Ruth Herzlinger, Max M. Jacobson, Dora Camisar, Zelma Cates, Israel Katz, Michael E. Kelly, Bernard H. Klein, Rebecca Levcoy, Francis Leaf, Michael Leaf, Ruth G. London, Augusta Lowenstein, Lester Mandel, Brenda C. Miller, Gertrude Miller, William Miller, Martin Oppenheim, Beverly Paddock, Leon Plattner, Harold Pomerantz, Harold Portnoy, Sarah Resnikoff, Sylvia Richardson, Alfred Robinson, Chuck Rosen, Joseph Rothlein, Alan Rubenstein, Alan J. Samowich, Blanche Sapir, Abraham Shiner, Daniel Schwartzman, Joseph Shore, Philip Solomon, Jack Taylor, and Barry Zeichner. If there are others you are remembering this Shabbat, or if I have inadvertently mispronounced the name of a loved one, I would invite you to share their names at this time.
My mother, former Betty May, Daniel, and Ingrid.
James Cotter.
Yehei zichronam livracha. May the memory of the righteous be an everlasting blessing. Words of Kaddish Yatom, our memorial prayer, can be found on page 294. Page 294, and I would invite you to rise if it is comfortable to do so as we join together affirming words of Kaddish Yatom. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ba'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'izman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lamei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei d'kudshah barich hu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May God, who makes peace in the highest of heavens, make peace for us and for all who mourn. Together we say, Amen. You may be seated. A special thank you to everyone who has participated in our service this evening, our third graders who are here to represent. Well done. Rabbi Emily, thank you for leading us in service and in prayer. Leslie, as always, for enabling those who are joining us in virtual community to do so. Folks at home, I'm sorry?
Third grade teachers.
Oh, yes, indeed. Our wonderful third grade teachers who helped us not only to kindle the lights of Shabbat, but to kindle that light of learning, that spark that continues through the Torah Center years to come. And of course, our august Torah Center director, who doesn't really want me to say any more. Folks at home, I wish I could share a cookie with you. I will have an extra one on your behalf. And I would invite everyone who is with us in the room to join me in having an extra one for our second soul given to us on Shabbat immediately following our service. But to conclude our service, I would invite you to turn in your prayer book to page 349. On the bottom of page 349, we find these words of prayerful memory written by freedom fighter Hannah Senesh, her walk to Caesarea, Eli, Eli, page 349.
Eli, Eli, shelo yigamer leolam, hachol ve'hayam, rishru shel hamayim, barak hashamayim, tfilat ha'adam, hachol ve'hayam, Rishru shel hamayim, barak hashamayim, tfilat ha'adam. O God, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of